possibilities begin. Employment empowers our youth. It makes the nation proud. With SME funds, skills, and freelancing, young minds rise with courage. They build industries, grow the economy, and drive the power of progress. In growing cities and expanding towns, smart planning and urban management shape a better life for all. When women become self-reliant, families grow stronger. Women lifts the nation higher. This is the Bangladesh of our dreams, a nation that awakens hope within us all, a land where no one is left behind, where opportunity reaches every home, where dreams walk on every road and hope flows through every river. This is not just a dream. This is a promise. This is a pact. We are fully prepared to build the Bangladesh of our dreams, a Bangladesh envisioned by Bangladesh Jamaat-E-Islamiplace. We know our challenges are many. We know the stories of falling behind.
Dear audience, ladies and gentlemen, we are humbly requesting you to be silent and have your seats. We are going to start the next policy presentation session.
The story of dreams, to tell the story of an aspiring Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a land of rivers, where life flows with courage, patience, and hope. From villages shaped by soil and sweat, to cities built on dreams and determination, this nation moves forward one step at a time. But progress demands courage. It demands a stand against corruption and extortion. It demands the light of good governance and the strength to rise above fascism. In every village, school, and city classroom, education lights the path forward. In every clinic and hospital, health protects the future. A strong economy is not just numbers on paper, it is food on the table, confidence in the heart, and dignity in work. Through information and communication technology, new doors open, new ideas rise, new possibilities begin. Employment empowers our youth. It makes the nation proud. With SME funds, skills, and freelancing, young minds rise with courage. They build industries, grow the economy, and drive the power of progress. In growing cities and expanding towns, smart planning and urban management shape a better life for all. When women become self-reliant, families grow stronger. Women lifts the nation higher. This is the Bangladesh of our dreams, a nation that awakens hope within us all, a land where no one is left behind, where opportunity reaches every home, where dreams walk on every road and hope flows through every river. This is not just a dream. This is a promise. This is a pact. We are...
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start the next session within very short time. You are requested to have your seats. And in the coming sessions, we are going to cover several policy presentation sessions. The first one would be promoting prosperity, economy, business, and investment. And then we'll be talking about youth employment policy to delivery. And after that, delivering on equity, women, and in action. And the next one is education for the future, policy for change. And the last one would be health matters, policy for transformation. All this presentation will be divided into two segments. At the very beginning, keynote speaker will give a presentation about the topic while you're requested to take notes and note down the necessary questions about the presentation. And after that, panel members will share their remarks and answer the questions as much as possible within the time. Hopefully we're going to cover all the sessions properly with your cooperation and attention. We would be grateful to you if you
frequently ওই সেশনগুলো দেখাতে হবে নতুন লোকজন আসতেছে তো তারা মনে হচ্ছে এইটাই সেশন কনফিউজ হয়ে যাচ্ছে যে উমেনের একটা সেশন আছে এডুকেশন না ওইটা না ওই যে ব্রেকে সময় স্লাইডটা শো করা যে এরপর এখন ধরো শো করতে পারো যে আজকে
ladies and gentlemen, respected guests, honorable diplomats, guests, and others, we'd like to request you to have your seats, please. We are going to start the next policy presentation session, and it's going to be about promoting prosperity, economy, business, and investment. We would be grateful to you if you have your seats right now, because you're going to start this session within a minute. It would be easy for us to conduct the session with your cooperation. We're going to cover 5 more policy presentation sessions with 5 different topics. The first one would be promoting prosperity, economy, business, and investment. Next one would be youth development policy to delivery. And after that, delivering on equity, women and in action. And the next one would be education for the future, policy for change. And the last one would be health matters, policy for transformation. Now,
আমরা এটা বলি লাইভ নিচ্ছি যে কোশ্চেন আরটা এখন মানে লাইভ নিলে উনি হ্যান্ড রেজ করলে হ্যান্ড রেজ করলে
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, we are humbly requesting you to have your seats right now. We are going to start the next policy presentation session. And our next session focuses on promoting prosperity, economy, business, and investment. And it will address economic resilience, investment, employment generation, and sustainable development. For having a discussion about this very policy, we'd like to invite the panel member, Mia Ghulam Parwar, former member of Parliament, Secretary General of Bangladesh Jamaat-E-Islami, Professor Dr. Warisul Karim, keynote speaker, full-time faculty, Professor and SBE Dean, PhD in Corporate Financial Reporting, University of Leeds, UK, Professor Dr. H.M. Mosharraf Hussain, Professor and Chairman, Department of Finance, Dhaka University, Dr. Shibbir Ahmed, Assistant Professor of Economics at North-South University, Shamim Sarah Khan, former Additional Secretary, Ministry of Industry, Dr. Nasiruddin Ahmed, Policy Advisor, International Growth Center, former Chairman, NBR. Now, I'd like to request the Honorable keynote speaker and the panel members to have their seats on stage. I'd like to humbly request the keynote speaker and the panel members to have their seats on stage. And I'd like to repeat it again. The first one is Mia Ghulam Parwar, former member of Parliament, Secretary General of Bangladesh Jamaat-E-Islami, Professor Dr. Warisul Karim, who would be the keynote speaker of today's presentation, full-time faculty, Professor and SBE Dean, PhD in Corporate Financial Reporting, University of Leeds, UK. I'd like to request the panel members and keynote speaker to have their seats on stage. Could you please have your seats on stage? Professor Dr. H. M. Musharraf Hussain, Professor and Chairman, Department of Finance, University of Dhaka. Dr. Shibir Ahmed, Assistant Professor of Economics at Northside University, who earned his PhD in Applied Economics from Michigan State University and previously served as a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Virginia. Please, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for the panel members and keynote speaker. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I'd like to invite Honorable Keynote Speaker, Professor Dr. Warisul Karim, to deliver his keynote address. I'd like to request the audience again for having a round of applause for Dr. Warisul Karim. I'd like to request Professor Dr. Warisul Karim to start the presentation.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Thank you.
Sorry for interruption. I'd like to request the audience who sit behind and stand behind. Could you please have your seats and keep silent? It would be easy for us to continue the presentation and get your attention. And the audience, you are requested to take notes while giving presentation. We'd be happy because after presentation, we are going to give you floor to ask the questions directly to the presenter and panelist. So would be happy if you have your seats and little bit maintain the silence of the hall room. Thank you. I'd like to request the Dr. Warisul Karim to start the presentation.
All right, assalamu alaikum everyone. A very good afternoon. My name is Warisul Karim. I'm currently working at North-South University and in charge of the Dean of the School of Business and Economics. I started my career at Dhaka University as a student of finance and then as a teacher of finance. I still consider myself a student of finance and economics. I taught at different places in the world, but over the last three and a half decades, I tried to find out how best to help this country that we all love, the country that is so full of potentials, the country that has an enormous level of talent, but we do not have the right kind of, or did not have the right kind of governance, the right kind of policies. So my assignment today is to go over the economic policy, the fiscal policy, mostly tax and banking, central banks, bank independence, revenue, healthcare. So overall, the economic policy envisioned by Jamaat-E-Islami, Bangladesh Jamaat-E-Islami, and the alliance that they have formed. So I'd like to start with a newspaper this morning, just a few hours ago. It was so timely that fits today's presentation. You can see on Bonik Barta this morning, it says, 50 কোটি টাকার বেশি ব্যাংক ঋণের প্রায় অর্ধেকই এখন খেলাপি. That means any loans over 50 crore, 500 million taka, which is just over $2.5 million. Of all these loans, more than 50% are non-performing, are about to default. So this is the tip of an iceberg. The country, on the path that it traveled for the last 53 years, we consider the path to be unsustainable, the country is on the brink of collapse, on the brink of bankruptcy. We start with our vision of a prosperous country, but to have a prosperous and thriving country, we need to have a sustainable economic policy. We need to be balancing our budgets. We need to find out how best we can spend our money with whatever little money we have. So we designed a policy based on a very low tax, low VAT, but very ambitious expenditure plan. So I was glad to see Dr. Devopriya Bhattacharya here and all other economists who are here. I'd like you to take note of the apparently paradoxical policies that on the one hand we are saying that we'll reduce taxes, but on the other hand we are saying that we will increase our expenditure. So how is that possible? This is apparently paradoxical. So if we start with the overall context, you can see Bangladesh is standing, as I said, on 21 trillion taka of sovereign debt. So two of the biggest problems that the country now faces are one is sovereign debt, 21 lakh crore, 21 trillion taka, as you can see, until November 2025, of which external debt in US dollars and other currencies is $113 billion, which was just about $20 billion 15 years ago. Debt service cost, right now, debt service cost is one of the most pressing, vexing issues, 23% of our revenue budget, and it is growing. So if we look at the context, you'll see that the debt situation has a small history, that a lot of people take comfort in a apparently low tax to GDP ratio. Yes, it is not comfortable. We take comfort in a low debt to GDP. They think that it used to be about 38%, now is crossing the 40% mark. So many countries in the world have 146 or 180% of their GDP in the form of debt. But that is not the real, that doesn't diagnose the real issue, the real problem that the country is facing. The debt to revenue, on the other hand, you can see the debt to revenue, NBR revenue, on the one hand we have 21 trillion, 21 lakh koti taka, 21 trillion taka of debt, but our revenue collection is still, NBR's revenue is less than 4 trillion taka. 4 lakh koti takar cheo kom amra ekhono collect kori. And to make the things worse, the debt servicing cost. Remember, debt per se is not a big problem. Like in the US, when Obama administration took over during 2009 financial crisis, they wanted to raise their tax ceiling, and many opponents, especially Republicans, they opposed it. But Obama said that our interest rate is so low. At that time, US was able to issue bonds at only 0.75%. So 30-year bonds, 30 bochhor meyadi bond, only 0.75% per year. So if your debt servicing cost doesn't bother you, then you could borrow. Because he said that if we don't borrow, it would be a crime. Because we can invest it in high IRR projects. We can invest in at least 4, 5, 6, 7%, and our borrowing cost is only less than 1%. But the situation in Bangladesh is completely opposite. Here you have seen Bangladesh Bank had issued bonds at interest rates as high as 12.9%. So for us, borrowing $1 is equivalent to the US borrowing $12. This is a very important point. We can't afford to be on the path that we are on. Borrowing at 12%, and then within 6 years, your debt level is going to double within 6 years, and within 12 years, it's going to quadruple. So I think debt servicing cost is one of the more important issues that we need to be looking at. And also, debt servicing cost to tax, debt servicing cost to our GDP is very high. So debt as a whole, although low compared to many other countries, compared to GDP, I hope I could make it clear, debt is about 40% of GDP, but debt servicing cost is about 23% of our annual revenue. So if we move to our next problem, which is, we call it banking collapse. You have seen about 10 banks have been described, have been identified as seriously in trouble. 5 had to be merged into one, Sammilit Islami Bank. And of those 5, there was one bank whose asset quality review, the AQR showed 98%. 98% of their loans and advances was toxic. So if you cannot collect 98%, and most of them had 40%, 60%, 70 up to 98%. So the total non-performing loan, when the last government took power, was only 22,000 crore taka, 22,000 koti taka থেকে এখন এটা 6,44,000 koti taka. So it has, you need to find a new, much wider scale of calculator to find it out. In other words, from less than about 1/5 of a trillion, just remember, 1/5 of a trillion, it has become 6.45 trillion in a span of 15 years. And the more ironical, the more frustrating issue was that the country, the policymakers, the donors, the international partners have not been allowed to see the real picture because we didn't apply International Accounting Standards 9, we didn't apply the global, the International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, to calculate and show our real NPL, the real non-performing loan. So there was a camouflaging. It was camouflaged, people were kept in dark. So these are two of the biggest problems that we are now standing. So the policy that we are going to propose is on the back of these issues. And then other seriously, maybe less serious, but other more important issues, we spent on capacity charge, on so-called, that in our electricity sector, we spend a lot of money on capacity charge. Means even though the factory, the suppliers, their machines are not functioning, even if they don't do anything, we still pay for their capacity, and about 2.65 trillion taka was spent over the last 15 years. So this led to what we call massive unemployment. And just one statistic, I just picked one statistic from yesterday's, day before yesterday's newspaper. You have seen on Pratham Alo, they said that Bangladesh was employing some primary school headmasters, and for about 1,200 positions, total 7 lakh, more than 7 lakh people, educated people have applied. So for one position, remember, for one position, about double the size of this room. If we fill this room, it would be about 350 people or 300. So for each position, the total number of applicants was 627. You imagine, একটা পজিশনের জন্য 627 জন apply করছেন. এবং that is not even a coveted position. It's only a primary school headmaster position which pays roughly $140 a month. Just for my overseas friends, $140 a month job drew more than 600 applicants for each position. So the country's educated unemployment is just intolerable. I would say inexplicable. National university graduates about 10 lakh, 1 million graduates every year, and of which 600,000 become jobless. So recently, one of the vice chancellors, the National University VC, said that I am proud to be the VC of the largest university of the world, but I'm also the VC of the largest unemployed producing factory in the world. And SOE losses, we have 49 state-owned enterprises. They have chronic losses. This is again another vexing, pressing issue. SOE losses in just last fiscal year was more than 28,000 crore taka. Of course, not to mention the money laundering, 28 trillion taka, apparently, according to Dr. Devopriya's report, white paper, 28 lakh koti taka had been siphoned overseas. So the development philosophy, and I'd like to build on our previous presenter who gave an overarching development, the governance philosophy. So building on that, remember, anything that I'm going to propose over the next 10-15 minutes is contingent upon the success of a good governance, a governance with good governance, a governance based on meritocracy, a government who will be incorruptible, not only not corrupt. We're proposing a government which would be difficult to corrupt, incorruptible government. So if those assumptions hold, only under that scenario these policies could be implemented. So we assume, and not just assume, we promise an incorruptible government. We assume a welfare state, a growing, thriving, smart, but also welfare state, a state where the government, the state doesn't take their hands off the poor and the elderly. So we would like the government, the public institutions to hold hands to our orphans, to our weak and vulnerable, to those in disease, to the elderly and children and unemployed, of course. We're going to propose some smart solutions. We promise equitable, fast, as I said, growing and sustainable economy, because the current path is simply unsustainable. We're going to assure social justice and use Islamic finance tools. We're using Islamic finance institutions and instruments. We promise a digitalized economy, digital transactions. We're going to make the most use of all the digital tools available in the world and AI solutions for financial inclusion. So, of course, Mr. Alamgir has proposed an inclusive economy, inclusive growth. So to do that, you have to have complete, broader financial inclusion of everyone living in the country. The proposals are going to be business-friendly. You'll see how. Youth-friendly, women-friendly, environmentally friendly. It will be based on an exploitation or aimed at an exploitation-free society where poverty would be said goodbye, poverty would be sent on exile. So we'll not say zero poverty, but the government will try to reduce poverty to a more tolerable, reasonable level. And the long-term goal, of course, desire is to have zero poverty. We are also proposing a regionally balanced economy. As our previous speaker has said, that we propose 64 districts, all 64 districts to have 64 great towns, not just Dhaka and Chittagong, and 500 other towns around the country, involving all the upazilas, and inclusive and equitable growth that I already mentioned. So to do that, some of the very ambitious proposals, we are proposing a highest tax rate. And to any tax professional, we have Sir here, former chairman of NBR, Dr. Nasiruddin. The highest income tax in this country is going to be 19%. No Bangladeshi citizen, no one will pay more than 19% of their taxable income. This is something we'll achieve gradually. We'll not just have it in the first year. It will take some 2 years to bring it down from current 30. Right now, the highest individual tax rate is 30%. The highest corporate tax rate is exorbitantly high, 45% in some cases. %40 for some of the successful telecom companies, and 35% for others. So the corporate income tax rate is also going to be 19%. This is extremely ambitious, so I'd like you to hold your breath to see how we are going to achieve that. So both individual and corporate tax rate will be capped at 19%, one of the lowest in the world, except for Kuwait, Qatar, and some of the tax havens. So the countries where people pay taxes, I don't think you're going to find any country where you'll find more than 19% of taxes. Then VAT rate will be capped at 10%. Currently it is 15%, but there are other lower rates. So we'll not touch the lower ones. The top rate is going to be 10%. Gradual reduction will take place from the current 15 to 10. We're going to propose a smart social security card. So this is also another hallmark of this proposal. It may look just like one line. So what we're going to propose is, right now, you know, we have NID cards, and we also have TIN numbers, tax identification numbers. So we propose that the current will be converted into a TIN, into a tax identification number or TIN card, and together merging